Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to BSing Sports, where we do a little BSing and we talk a whole lot of sports. I'm Bill. With me, as always, is Ryan. And this week's conversation, for those of you who are
Trying to see if there's any big news in the NFL that we should talk about, because I don't really feel like we have a whole lot of conversation.
well, while Ryan's going through that, we it was a joke, just for you fans who didn't get it. Joke.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about the Brady rumors that were coming out today. Obviously, Big Ben retired this past week. Sean Payton stepping away from the New Orleans Saints. And then we obviously have Rodgers rumors, where he may go, where he may end up. We're going to talk a little bit about that. And then obviously last week's games and our predictions for this week's games. So, Ryan, fire away with the Brady information.
Yeah, so it was reported first by Adam Schefter that Tom Brady had officially retired. That was earlier this afternoon, I would say roughly 3 or 4 hours ago. And since then, it has been a whirlwind of chaos. Other people reporting Brady's retired, athletes of all across all sports, coming out and celebrating the career that Tom Brady had, which is a fantastic one. Then, the new rumors started coming out that Brady has not made his decision yet. That was according to Bucs GM John Litch, as well as his father came out and said Tom has not made his decision yet. This would not be the first time that Adam Schefter has apparently fabricated a story. So I feel like even if Brady had made up his mind that he retired, the fact that he sounds very irate that it got leaked to the media before he announced it, I feel like he's the type of dude that out of spite would stay and play another year.
I mean, it's worth noting that statistically, he had one of his best overall careers this past season. You're talking he threw for 5,300 yards, 43 touchdowns on 12 interceptions, 67.5% completion percentage this year. Statistically, it was one of his best seasons. The only one that jumps off the page at me that was significantly better was 2007 when he was playing with Randy Moss. So take that, couple that into the fact that he got beat in the divisional round by the Rams. It makes me really curious of his decision to retire at this point. It's not like he was on a decline.
Yeah, I did not think that he would, go out as a loser. I mean, granted, that's how he ended his Patriot tenure, but at the same time, the Patriots were in a very different direction than the Bucs were.
It's worth noting that the Philadelphia Eagles will forever, eternally, unless he comes back and loses another one, be the last team that beat Tom Brady in a Super Bowl.
Yeah. That being said, yeah. So I'm not sure where this goes. I think ultimately he does retire. I just think that he's kind of pissed about how the whole thing went down, that it got leaked and whatnot. I think that retirement was on his mind, but yeah, that's an interesting one. I didn't hear that, but I feel like that's very made up. I feel like there's no way that anybody would outside of the Brady household would even have that information. So
that's definitely not real.
If I had to guess between the two, I am going to say that Tom Brady retires, but who knows?
I'm with you. I also figured he would be retiring at this point, but I still stand by what I said prior. Is he had a hell of a year. Again, statistically, there was no downside. You're talking in the last 2 seasons, he's only lost 9 games. For me, that's not a guy.
So saying he does call it quits, what's your favorite Tom Brady moment?
It's not a positive one.
Well, not for him anyway.
Well, yeah, correct. So, and it's like a whole story, a whole whirlwind story is in the Super Bowl against the Eagles. Obviously, he runs almost the identical pass that Nick Foles later catches in the game, and he doesn't catch it. And Giselle sends a tweet out that says, he can't throw and catch the ball. He can't do anything, New England. Let's get it going. And then literally 2 quarters later, Nick Foles catches a touchdown pass in the end zone. So for me, that's one of my favorite Tom Brady memories of all time is his wife tweeting that out. And then Nick Foles being like, I got this.
I don't know. I'd say my favorite Tom Brady memory is a positive one for him. 28-3 will ever be, famous if you're a Patriot fan and infamous if you're a Falcons fan. That's probably one of the greatest led comebacks I've ever seen, partially not having anything to do with Tom Brady, but, Kyle Shanahan kind of screwed that one up himself and allowed Brady the opportunity to lead the Patriots offense down the field and get those touchdowns. But that's probably my favorite Tom Brady memory. We also have the tuck rule because of him.
The tuck rule, that's right. And then
also have the rule that you can't hit quarterbacks below the knee because of him.
That's correct.
Yeah, so he kind of revolutionized the game, whether people like the way that he went about it or not. Just him being himself, him being Tom Brady, him being the GOAT, whatever you want to label him as, he kind
I
of
actually have
revolutionized the game.
I actually have a good question for you. I'm glad you brought the GOAT up. For you, I'll give my little run off here in a few seconds after you answer. Do you think that Tom Brady is the GOAT?
GOAT quarterback? No. GOAT competitor and athlete across all sports? Yes.
That's an interesting answer.
Yeah. So Tom Brady, you cannot, and I mean, you cannot dispute that Tom Brady has the ultimate leadership ability. Think about the guys that he's played with and how he's elevated their game to a different level to allow guys to play at their best ball. So that way they could win 7 Super Bowls together. You think about guys like Julian Edelman, who probably would never even be number 2 receivers on teams. He was the number 1 receiver for Brady for quite a few years.
Danny Amendola.
Danny Amendola. Tom Brady is not the GOAT quarterback. As a quarterback, there's a couple other, individuals that I would take over him. However, his leadership, his uncanny ability as a teammate, the way that he elevates other people's games to be the best that they can be. There's not another athlete in any of the 4 major sports that I can think of that does that.
Yeah, so I love your take on it. I absolutely love your take on it.
Best quarterback, no. Best leader, best whatever you want to label what I just described him as, absolutely, hands down.
Yeah, I love your take on that. I really do. I'm with you on the not best GOAT quarterback, and my reasoning for this is a little more statistical and analytical. If you put Tom Brady when Joe Montana or Terry Bradshaw or any of these older quarterbacks were playing, he's definitely not the same quarterback that he is in the era that he played. Is he the best quarterback of his generation? Probably. More likely, absolutely. I mean, you can argue Manning. You can't really even argue Rodgers at this point. You could try and argue Brees because of all the statistics that Brees put up over his 20-year career. But really, if you're looking at it as a whole for the last 22 years, Tom Brady has been if not one of the best quarterbacks in football. However, I stand very strong on the rules that were made for Tom Brady, as you already pointed out, weren't given to Joe Montana and his wide receivers. There was nothing protecting the wide receivers when he was throwing the ball. So for me, Brady is not the GOAT quarterback in any way, shape, or form because of the different, exactly, John, different style of football. The way the game is played differently today than it was back in 1980. So greatest quarterback of his generation, I will give him a nod, but he is not the GOAT. And the fact that people continuously just fire away and call him the GOAT, it's really, really analytical, and you got to talk about it because it's not as easy as 1, 2, 3. There's a lot of gray in there.
The GOAT is never going to be a black and white conversation because of the different eras of football. You can make the claim that Brady would have been just as successful in the 80s, but nobody's ever really going to know that. Also, please don't ever mention Terry Bradshaw in the GOAT conversation ever. He wasn't even a top 5 quarterback in his generation.
I'm just saying, my point stands. He also has 5 rings. Thank you for my whiskey. As you can see, my wife has her Tom Brady jersey on.
Shout out to my mother-in-law. Thank you for the awesome Christmas present.
Bye, Allie.
Bye, Allie. But yeah, so I'm just saying it because Brady also has, or Bradshaw also has 5 rings. He's not in my top 10 quarterback of all time conversation. We can do that another day. Actually, I think that'd be a great episode.
But speaking of top 5 quarterbacks, so I shared the meme with you. The Burrow, Allen, Herbert, Mahomes, Lamar Jackson era is going to be better than the Brady, the Manning, the I guess Flacco, Roethlisberger, Rivers, Eli era. Do you agree or disagree with that statement, first of all, and then why?
I think it'll be more exciting to watch. These are guys who are multifaceted as quarterback. Meanwhile, the Mannings and the Bradys and the Big Bens were all, I mean, they were exciting in their own right. I'm not saying they weren't, but they were one-dimensional. So they're not a running gun quarterback. They're one-dimensional. Sit in the pocket, maybe avoid pressure, create pressure with a little bit of movement, fire the ball downfield. So you're seeing like 300, 400-yard passing games, and that's it. Now, these new generation of quarterbacks, the Patrick Mahomes, the Josh Allen, the Justin Herberts, these guys are mobile. In addition to creating havoc with their arm, because they all have cannons, they're able to create space by themselves, extend plays, run for 20, 30 yards a clip. Look at what Mahomes did last week to the Bills and what Allen did last week to the Chiefs. I
think Mahomes outran Allen, actually.
Mahomes did outrun Allen. Mahomes, I think, had 74 yards rushing. Allen had 62. but that's my point, is they bring a whole other facet to the game. I mean, as Eagles fans, we should and be more excited about Jalen Hurts if he can play it the highs that we've seen versus the lows. But these other quarterbacks in the AFC, especially the ones in the AFC right now, this new generation of quarterbacks are going to be more exciting to watch. The only one that I think has a chance to catch like the Breezes and the Bradys statistically right this second is probably Mahomes, but that obviously is going to change. Herbert's only in his second season. Burrow's only in his second season. Allen's only in his fourth season. Like, these are young guys. We can see all of these guys play into their 20th season. And if we do, it's going to be, that conference is absolutely going to be phenomenal to watch over the next 10 to 15 years.
So as far as comparing the two eras, I think you're spot on saying it's going to be a little bit more exciting. What I compare it to is the quarterback play is not going to be better, to be honest with you. When you think of guys like Manning, guys like Brady, at his prime, not that, he really had a bad season, but prime Brady, they were precision. They were, precise. Manning, never had a strong arm at any point in his career, but the ball was exactly where it needed to be right when the receiver was coming out of his break. He was very, sheriff-like, he commanded the field. Brady commands the field. Mahomes even admitted that he didn't know how to read defenses until the middle of his second season. So when we're talking about strictly quarterback play, I don't think that Allen, Mahomes, Herbert, Burrow, Lamar have any chance to catch these guys. However, what I compare it to is these guys are a bunch of Brett Favres running around here. Brett Favre was an exciting quarterback. They were okay, well, I definitely disagree with that statement wholeheartedly, especially with the way quarterbacks are babied nowadays. That's a ridiculous statement. But as far as excitement level, absolutely, it's going to be more exciting. You have a bunch of Brett Favres, a bunch of running guns, guys that are going to shoot for the big play. I mean, Christ, as great as Burrow's been, he led the league in interceptions with 15 this year. Herbert was picked off 13 times. Mahomes, had a real rough start to the year. He's picked off like 8 times in the first 10 games or something like that. These guys are going to shoot for it all. They got these big arms. They're going to push the ball downfield, and they're going to make mistakes. That's the way Brett Favre played his game. It was very exciting to watch. The only difference was Favre was doing it in the middle of an era with, like Elway and, Brady and young Manning. So there was precise quarterbacks around him. He stood out. This generation, there isn't really a standout. Even Allen, strong arm kind of guy who can run with the ball, but he's going to push the ball downfield. He's going to make his own mistakes. So, but yeah, no. To touch on that comment, bring that one back up.
Yes, because I want to talk about it as well.
Yeah, that's an awful statement. I totally disagree with that. They absolutely will last. I wouldn't be surprised if, all of these quarterbacks last just as long as Brady. I'd say they all last at least 15 years, with the exception of maybe Lamar, just because of his playing style. But, they're all big-bodied guys, that the way quarterbacks are protected nowadays, and who knows what the rules are going to look like 10 years from now, even if they might get even a little softer. And these guys, they're just ultra talented. They have the ability. They now have established themselves as not being true busts. We don't have any Ryan Leaf scenarios where we're just holding on for guys to, like, maybe he'll turn the corner this year, maybe he'll live up to his draft capital. No, they have all exploited one way or another that they are talented quarterbacks, and that I think all of them probably play at least 15 years. That's not going to be as uncommon as people think it'll be, in the coming seasons.
Yeah, I mean, the reality is the fact, and on that particular post that you shared with me, and we had a small conversation about it, we both agreed Lamar doesn't really deserve to be in the conversation with those guys.
No, not yet. He's a different style of quarterback anyway. He's a little bit more one look and then run, whereas the other guys will at least try and get the ball to their receivers.
In addition to that, I totally agree with what you're saying. I mean, if you feel that way, John, I'll let you pop on.
Yeah, we'll send you a link.
Send me your email right now. But again, it's sorry, we're talking to John here. He's one of our loyal listeners. For those of you who are tuning in for the first time, or maybe just a couple of times, John's been here since the beginning. John, we appreciate you. We're not trying to say anything.
No, we are. Come on the show. Bring it on.
However, you hit it right on the head. The way that quarterbacks are protected in the league these days, I get where maybe John might be coming from because they're running more often and they're holding the ball a little bit longer because they're trying to push the ball down the field. They're going to get hit more, and I understand that argument. But because they're so protected, anything below the waist isn't allowed. Defensive linemen can't really tee off on them, and when they're running, the slide rule is super important. So again, if they're running and they elect to start a slide, linebackers have to pull up on them. They're not getting hit very hard. And why didn't he just send it to me? Give me. All right, Ryan, talk for a few seconds.
Yeah. So, but going off of that statement, actually, I was looking at something. I was thinking about this the other day. So, with the potential that Aaron Rodgers leaves Green Bay, and the top candidate for him to go to is an AFC team. The Denver Broncos has been thrown around a lot, and apparently Devontae Adams would not hesitate to follow him there. The NFC quarterback class looks really weak.
Super.
If Brady and Rodgers leave, it looks the outlook looks bleak. I mean, we're talking Kirk Cousins might be a top 5 quarterback in the NFC, and not that Kirk Cousins hasn't had a fantastic season, but Kirk Cousins has never jumped off the page as a top 5 quarterback in the conference. So that's a little bit that's kind of scary if you think about it. But without Rodgers, without Brady. Who are the top 5 quarterbacks in the NFC? Dak might be one.
I mean, yes, Dak should be one, but he's consistently come out and shown why the Cowboys
not number one. He is one of the top 5.
Yeah, that's what I mean. He should be one of the top 5. But he's come out consistently year after year, and
but you have no argument to you can't name 5 better quarterbacks in the NFC than Dak Prescott. He is one of the top 5.
And I would concur with that. I mean, you're not going to talk about Daniel Jones. Jalen Hurts is way too green to even try and bring into it.
Let's go down the NFCs. None of the other guys qualify. All right.
Yeah.
NFC South.
No, yeah, with Brady gone, nothing really. Matt Ryan, if he stays in the AFC or NFC.
Yeah, I mean, doubt it. We're talking that's a stretch of a name.
Yeah, but I mean, that's the cream of the crop in the NFC quarterback class at this point in time. That's what I'm saying.
No, not at all. The cream of the crop. You're getting at least 3 out of the 4 in the NFC West.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, with Stafford, Murray, and Russell Wilson. Okay.
Yeah, so there's 3, and then the NFC North.
John, if you can hear me, do you have a camera or is it strictly volume? I'm going to get from you. Give me a second, Ryan.
So it's Cousins.
Ryan or John, no camera.
Yep.
Oh, okay. You're driving. All right.
So it's Cousins. It's Cousins, Dak, and the 3 out of the 4 NFC West quarterbacks. That's it.
Yeah, you're right.
Stafford's probably the number 1 quarterback in the conference.
If Rodgers is gone, absolutely.
Yeah, and I mean, no offense to Matt Stafford, he's had a great year in his first year in the systems. That's terrible.
Yeah. All right, John, go ahead and argue your point, buddy.
Yeah.
All right. So the way today's style is, obviously quarterbacks, the arm strength, but you see a lot more moving around, running the ball more, like Josh Allen. He has the ability to run for yards if he has to. But I just feel like one wrong run will ruin their career. One wrong hit to the leg obviously can ruin a career. Not saying that it's going to happen because obviously we don't know if it's going to happen, but I just feel like the wear and tear running is going to decrease their years that they could stay in the NFL, whereas like Brady didn't really run as much. He was more of a pocket passer. Peyton could run a little bit, but he was more of a pocket passer. Obviously, all those style quarterbacks, pocket passers.
Yeah, so I don't know if you heard me when I was trying. So I don't know if you heard me when you were trying to get on the site. I kind of argued that in your favor a little bit, but I still stand with, because of all the rules to protect quarterbacks, like linebackers aren't going to be able to tee off on them because if they show like they're initiating a slide, the linebackers have to pull up. Defensive linemen can't hit them low, can't land on them, can't touch them in the head. So it's a very one-dimensional situation for defenses to hit these quarterbacks. So I understand your argument. However, on the flip side of that, I think they get the longevity that we're discussing because of all these rules.
The second part to that is sports science has come such a long way in the last 20 years. You know, tearing an ACL before used to be devastating. Now it's nothing. I mean, Burrow bounced back so quickly from his. Everybody expects guys like J.K. Dobbins to have quick recoveries, and he's a running back. You know, that leg injuries are not as devastating as they used to be. I mean, look at Cam Akers, tore his Achilles and came back in the same season. So So
Yeah.
with the advance in medicine and sports science, and with the way that these guys are protected, and 10 years down the line, it'll just the NFL will probably keep getting softer as much as we won't want it to, and sports science will get better. These guys will all probably play, 15 to 18 years maybe. And with how early they're starting too, Brady was a backup for a little bit. They planned on keeping him on the bench. So all these guys are coming in almost day one and starting, with the exception of this past year's, draft class. But
yeah, I mean, we won't know until anything happens.
That's true.
Yeah,
So
that's
just my take.
If the Bengals don't get an offensive line, though, they might get Burrow killed.
Yeah,
that is true. And listen, we appreciate the take. Thank you for hopping on with us, John, to argue your point. We when you have more time, I see that you're working. Maybe we'll have you on for an entire show.
Yeah, I'm on my way to work now.
Yeah, I got you. All right, buddy. Keep listening. And thank you so much.
See you, fellas.
Yep. But solid point. I mean, there is always the potential of injury, and the more dynamic you are, there is always more potential for injury than if you are, a very static individual. But
no, I mean, and I to an extent, I do agree with him. However, like, injuries can happen at any given point in time. And I know I always do this. I bring up my memories with the Eagles, but in 2017, Carson Wentz was a freak of nature in the backfield, and then he dives and hurts his ACL. All the other stuff he did that season, he diving and he tore his ACL. So, like, an injury can happen at any point in time. So I get it, but I don't think it'll be caused by a hit. If they're going to get hurt, they're going to get hurt some other way. So sticking on the quarterback situation,
I still can't fathom how bad the NFC quarterbacks are going to be if Rodgers leaves.
We're going to have a conversation about this. But speaking of Aaron Rodgers, let's move right into him. It's been rumored that he's considering retirement, but the reality of it is he may be considering retirement in order to get the Packers to trade him, because he's he is signed with the Packers for the end of the 2022 season, but he's contemplating retirement because he doesn't want to play for the Packers. If it does so happen that he does not play for the Packers next year, the Packers do decide to move him, where do you think he goes?
I'm 99% sure that information isn't right, but
what information?
Because he had his contract reworked this past offseason to be that if he wanted to move at the end of this year, he would.
Give me are you looking it up too?
Yeah. Yeah, none of it's guaranteed.
Under contract at least through the 2022
Yeah,
season.
he has a potential out at the end of this year, so it's a player out. But yeah, I think obviously he does opt out of his contract. He basically, his postseason presser was essentially saying the Packers are going to be rebuilding and I don't want to be here for it. So him and Devontae Adams probably both gone. And like I said, top spot destination for me would be Denver. They already have two very good receivers. Adding a third in Devontae Adams would be very nice. They have an offensive line. They have a young running back. They have a good defense. A division that they can be, somewhat competitive in. The AFC West quarterbacks would be insane, but you'd have 3 top 10 quarterbacks in one division.
So Aaron Rodgers is signed through the 2022 season.
He's signed through the 2023 season, actually, but he has a player out
after the 2022 season. Yes. So if he was
it's after this year.
Yeah. So in order to move him this offseason, they would have to trade him.
No, he has a player opt out of his contract at the end of this season.
At the end of the 2022 season. It's 2020. This is still technically the 2021 season.
I'll show you.
I'm looking at it.
No, I'll put it on the screen so that way.
Yes, if you send it to me, I can put it on the screen, I think.
According to Sports Track, the player opt out is after this season. That line right across the screen.
Yeah, it's a little blurry. I can see it though. I got this right off the NFL website. Rodgers is under contract at least through the end of the 2022 season, which is not technically the one that just finished or is still finishing.
He has some kind of weird option for 2023. I don't know if it's dead money, like that the Packers pushed off to another season, like the Bucs kind of did with Brady when he signed that 1-year extension with those 4 dead years. But he has some kind of weird clause for 2023 too. But yeah, no, his potential out was after this season.
Okay. Okay, so your landing destination is still Denver. We've had that conversation in the past.
It's the best scenario for him right now. If he wants to go on a team that's looking to win. I mean, Elway has been swing and miss with all kinds of quarterbacks outside of Peyton, so I think he'll make the biggest push to go get him.
So I don't disagree that Denver's probably the likely landing spot, but just for the sake of arguing with you, Michael Thomas has already come out and said he doesn't want to play in New Orleans anymore, which means they're looking for a wide receiver. And the reason I tie the Saints to Rodgers is because they could make a push to get Devontae Adams and then turn around and make a push to bring Rodgers in with Devontae Adams on that team. Go ahead.
That could be an interesting take. However, I think the most likely scenario is the opposite way around. Aaron Rodgers goes somewhere first, and then Adams follows.
Which I mean, it might be a conversation between Adams and Rodgers where they decide they want to play together, and it doesn't matter.
And if Brady's really retired, Tampa's another option too.
Godwin
could walk in free agency. Rodgers could go there, play the slot next to Evans, and Rodgers could go down to Tampa, and Kyle Trask would have a couple more years.
Yeah, so that was another follow-up question. We got through the Rodgers stuff pretty quick. Is Kyle Trask ready?
I mean, I don't know. I've never seen him.
Yeah, I've never seen him either, so I don't know.
All right. I would say, if you give him a couple more years to play behind, a guy like Rodgers, and then, after playing a season behind Brady, I mean, I don't know how much more ready you're going to get than that. The Saints could definitely clear up some cap space, though, to go after a guy like Rodgers or Adams, considering that the entirety of Taysom Hill's contract is voidable. So that would save him $35 million off the bat.
Gotcha. All right, so John posted this. I would have to check.
That's why I said what I said.
Okay, yeah. I would have to check and confirm that. But like I said,
if they move off Thomas, his contract's gone too.
Exactly. Yeah, I was just about to say Thomas has already stated he doesn't want to play there. And he was been pretty vocal about it. And then after Sean Payton walked away earlier this week, I think it became even more prominent.
Where do you think Sean Payton goes, if anyone?
Monday Night Football booth.
Yeah, you think goes with Romo or something?
Yeah, because I do actually think he probably does the booth situation. And I'd like to hear Peyton and Romo talk football.
I heard a real possibility is Joe Buck and Sean Payton together in the booth because Troy Aikman's leaving for Thursday Night Football on Amazon Prime.
Aikman has looked like crap the last couple times I've seen him on TV.
Yeah, he looks like he's aging, but that's probably because he's sitting next to Joe Buck. So I'll give him a pass for that one.
Fair enough. We could discuss Joe Buck.
I've grown to like Aikman as an announcer, whether people like it or not. He kind of.
No, I like. Oh, Ryan, you got out there, buddy. I may have just lost my co-host here, so we. So while Ryan is trying to figure out how to get back on, I'm pretty sure his laptop just died. To Ryan's point, I know where he was going on it. Aikman has been extremely unbiased about especially when the Cowboys are playing the Philadelphia Eagles or the New York Giants or the Washington football team, who apparently have a new team name and it's supposed to be the Admirals, and they're going to announce it sometime next week. But it was leaked, so there's that. But Aikman is been really good about being unbiased and not just calling Cowboy games for the sake of the Cowboys, the team that he spent his entire career with. He's learned over the years to really look at both sides of the football and be analytical on both sides of the ball. And I mean, you got to respect that from a lifer on one team when he switches over. Drew Brees has struggled a little bit in his booth announcing career. Tony Romo struggled a little bit last year, but he's also getting better. Same thing as Aikman, lifetime Cowboy quarterback. So it's really just one of those things, and that's why I think Sean Payton goes to the booth. He's been the head coach of the New Orleans Saints for as long as what's it been, 2002 till 2022, so almost 20 years. He's been the head coach of the New Orleans Saints. He won a Super Bowl there, especially after Katrina. That team really put that city back together, which was wonderful, which I think is why he held on as long as he did. But yeah, I'm going to go off the cuff here and say that Sean Payton goes to the booth and he doesn't really go to a team. One of the few teams that I think might be able to make a push for him, John Ferris, guy we just had on, said that Dallas is an intriguing option. However, I think they have people already on the coaching staff right now, like Dan Quinn, who's already announced he doesn't want to leave the Cowboys, and Kellen Moore, who could take over the head coaching job if they do in fact decide to fire the coach there. I can't think of his name off the top of my head. McCarthy, there it is. So one of those guys would probably take over internally in that situation. I know I sound like I'm rambling, and I apologize. Usually there's a little bit more give and take with a co-host, so it's like me soloing this right this second. The only other stuff that we had to talk about was last week's football games, and then obviously our predictions and breakdowns of this week's football games. So I could just do last week's while I wait for Ryan to figure out his laptop situation and get back on. I thought maybe he'd text me, and he hasn't, so that's also good. Hi. So last week's game, probably the most exciting playoff week of football that I've been able to watch in my entire life, and I'm including the 2017 playoffs with the Philadelphia Eagles, where they look like crap against the Falcons, end up winning 15-12, and then just blow out the Vikings, and then obviously play one of the best Super Bowl games against the Patriots. But this past weekend, every game came down to a last-second field goal or a last-second play in overtime in the case of the Chiefs and Bills game, which is one of my best watched games of my entire life. I don't want to break down play for play, but I could. Just so you all know, I watched every bit of every game, and it was amazing. Oh, hey, hold on. I got my co-host back. All right. Only 4 minutes by myself. I think I did decent.
That was embarrassing.
Yeah. What happened? Laptop died?
Yeah.
Yeah, and now you're lagging like crazy. So yeah.
It'll be the you show, and if I need to talk,
Sounds
I
good.
will.
So yeah, anyway, so last week's games were the most exciting games that I've watched in football in many, many years. Rams obviously going to Tampa and putting up 24 points in the first half of the game. They unfortunately let Tom Brady and the Buccaneers back into the game, but ultimately win it on a last-second field goal. You got the Bengals beating the Raiders again on a last-second. Oh no, not the Raiders this past week. It was the Tennessee Titans on a last-second field goal. Also,
Which both of us predicted.
Yes, we predicted the last-second field goal and everything for the Bengals-Titans game.
Except the score.
We thought it was going to be a little higher. But still, we said that it was going to be a last-second field goal and that the Bengals were going to walk out of Tennessee with a victory. And same thing with I was wrong. I said Packers, but I said it was going to be a really close game. Ryan said that the Niners were going to come out of that victorious, and he was 100% correct. They did. Last-second field goal, same situation, Robbie Gould. Ryan, did you see the pregame of Robbie Gould kicking field goals while they're announcing the Packers players on the field, right over top of their heads? The amount of disrespect was awesome. And then he kicks the game-winning field goal. It's just absolutely amazing.
And that's only the second coolest thing a kicker did all weekend. How about Evan McPherson, when going out there saying, all right, looks like we're going to the AFC Championship game.
Yeah, that was another awesome story. Joe Burrow said it in his post-game press conference when they got down the field. Burrow was coming off to the sideline, and Evan McPherson walked over to him and said, "Well, looks like we're going to the AFC conference game." And he walks out there and kicks a field. The confidence of that kid, rookie kicker, drafted in the 5th round, way higher than a lot of kickers ever go.
Yeah.
And he has been perfect in the playoffs, and he was really, really good in the regular season. The Bengals did not miss with that pick, even though everybody was looking sideways at them when they made it. They did not miss with that pick, which brings us to obviously the overtime walk-off touchdown by Travis Kelsey in the Bills-Chiefs game. What a phenomenal game that was. My mother, I was going to bring this up, which is why I waited to do the Chiefs-Bills game last, is after the game, the Chiefs fans all donated $13, which was the final 13 seconds left in the fourth quarter that Patrick Mahomes went down the field and scored a touchdown to tie the game. $13 to Josh Allen's charity, which is a hospital, which is amazing. And it was just to show the appreciation of how great of a playoff game that was. And I got to be honest, I hope there's so many more of those games in the future between those two quarterbacks. The other cool thing about it is right after Mahomes embraced Kelsey in the end zone after he threw the touchdown, he immediately ran the length of the field and gave Josh Allen a huge hug, just showing the character of Patrick Mahomes and realizing that this was something of history to behold. And he knew it. Josh Allen knew it. They both played out like crazy. 4 touchdown passes for Allen, 3 for Mahomes. Both of them surpassed 300 plus yards in the air, in addition to 50 plus yards on the ground. If you don't move around too much, I might be able to hear you clear.
Check.
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right.
I'm listening. Do you want to like hop on your phone? Like
I tried. So my take on the whole thing is that was probably one of the most incredible games I've ever seen, in all honesty, regular season or playoff, and it was very poetic. However, Stephon Diggs the previous year stood out on the field and watched the Chiefs celebrate, only for his best play to be tackling a guy who ran onto the field. He was nowhere to be found, nowhere to be seen, didn't help in any sort of way, shape, or form, and the Bills still put up over 30 points. Imagine if their best weapon was actually involved.
It's worth noting that Stephon Diggs takes double coverage. Tyrann Mathieu covered him until Mathieu got hurt. That was double coveraging over Stephon Diggs most of the game. Him being on the field is a catalyst. Any way you want to shake it. Gabriel Davis, just so you guys know, Gabriel Davis went to UCF, which is right around the corner from me. Heck of a game. 4 touchdowns, if I'm not mistaken. All 4 of Josh Allen's throwing touchdowns were to Gabriel Davis, right? Oh no, 1 went to Knox, so 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, 1 went to Knox.
And it was again just a phenomenal game, wonderful to watch, to be able to witness it live. And yeah, again, I hope we have so many more of those between those 2 quarterbacks and those 2 teams, because it's going to be a rivalry of the ages. I believe that's the next Manning Brady matchup. You can throw Herbert in there a little bit.
I was going to say, do you think it rivals Peyton Brady?
I think Allen Mahomes is the new Peyton Brady. Yes. And I mean, you can't really dispute it based on what they've done just the last 2 seasons. They meet in the playoffs 2 years in a row, and 2 years in a row, one team comes out victorious. It was very reminiscent of the Patriots Colts for all those years. So yeah, to me, the Allen Mahomes is the new Brady Manning. And again, you can throw the Burrows in there, you can throw the Herberts in there, and I'm sure they'll win theirs eventually. But right now, for me, the AFC cream of the crop are those 2 guys that were on the field in Kansas City last weekend.
Yeah, and I think there's going to be different levels to the rivalry. Like Burrow and Herbert are going to have, a similar rivalry. Mahomes and Allen will probably be the cream of the crop, like you said. But the AFC quarterback competition, is deep for years. It's going to be incredible to watch. That being said, I already know the answer to this question. However, we need to ask it. Do you think the overtime rules need to change, and will they?
I don't think there's an NFL fan on the planet that says no. Absolutely 100%. The overtime rules need to be changed. The fact that they played such a stellar game, it was back and forth, especially in the last 4 minutes of the game. You're talking 32 points in the last 4 minutes of the game. And then Josh Allen never gets to touch the football. That's absolutely absurd, and the overtime rules need to change. I'm actually in favor of doing something similar to college, except rather than give them the ball at the 25 and give them 4 downs to score, I think they should give them the ball at the 50 and give them 4 downs to score and go from there. So yes, I 100%, zero doubt, think that the rule needs to change. Do I think it changes? Absolutely not, because it's a business, and the NFL is out to make revenue and conflict any way that they can. And right now, that's one of the biggest topics. And the NFL gets the information, gets the positives from it. I don't know how it's positive, but the positives from it.
Yeah, so I'm actually kind of on the opposite side of you for the second part. First part is, yeah, it obviously needs to change. I do think that they should just play a full 15-minute quarter, though. Let it be what it is. Shouldn't be based on possessions, to just run out a whole 15-minute quarter of overtime. And then
I like that too, actually. Yeah.
I think it will change eventually, due to the fact that the NFL needs to realize that they make dollars for fans sitting in the seats as long as possible, and the longer you can keep the fans in the seats, the better.
Oh man, you are awesome. Thank
you. And we're talking from a business aspect. That's probably the most straight up answer. Is eventually they will. I think that they will change. I don't think it'll happen this year. However, with the uproar that this game caused, I think eventually the NFL will look into it, probably on the next collective bargaining agreement.
So here's the thing: is the NFL has the power to create new rules at any given time. 3 years ago, they had the obvious intercept or pass interference in the Rams-Saints game, and the following season they came out with offensive PI being able to be challenged, or I'm sorry, defensive PI being able to be challenged. And that obviously ended up going away very quickly because it was drawing out games, and the NFL wants the games to get over just a little bit quicker. However, I am a huge fan of changing the overtime rule for the sake of, again, those of you who have been on the show with me have heard me talk about it. Josh Allen is probably my favorite athlete in the NFL right now, outside of Jason Kelsey, Travis Kelsey's brother. And because of that, it's absolutely absurd that Josh Allen didn't get the football in the overtime and have an opportunity to bring his team down the field. Look, we don't know what would have happened. He very easily could have gone out there in the first throw he makes, throws an interception, but you got to give him the chance to do it. So if the NFL is watching, the NFL's got to take care of that. I can hear noises. Ryan, are you still there? No, he's not there. I didn't think so. No, don't kick Guess. What are you doing? Sorry, still playing with StreamYard. Hopefully Ryan can get back in. So let's talk about this week's games. He's back again. He's back. He's back again.
Yeah, I'm like Brady. I just keep going in and out.
But yeah, I basically just said Allen's one of my favorite players in the field right now. It was absurd that he didn't get the ball after the Chiefs went down the field and scored.
Yeah.
All right, so discussing this week's games. 3:00 on Sunday afternoon tomorrow. The 10-7 Bengals take a ride up to Arrowhead and visit the 12-5 Kansas City Chiefs.
I already know what you're going to say. The answer is no.
What do you think I'm going to say?
The Bengals aren't going to beat the Chiefs. Not a chance.
The Bengals are not going to beat the Chiefs. There is not a chance. However, it will be a game. It will not be a situation where the Chiefs come in and absolutely decimate the Bengals. So I'm going Chiefs here. Patrick Mahomes is going to throw 4 touchdowns. That's a bold statement, and I'm sticking to it. And the Chiefs win 35-31.
I'm going to say 37-31. I think it's going to be a little bit more high scoring than that. I think both quarterbacks get at least 3 touchdowns. No real hot takes there other than it's going to be a shootout. I think last week's win kind of solidified Zach Taylor as the coach of the year, though. The turnaround that the Bengals have had is unbelievable, and then to go on the road and beat the number 1 Titans in their own house is incredible.
Actually, right before we got on the podcast, I read that Joe Burrow by the NFL Writers Association has been named NFL Player of the Year, NFL Comeback Player of the Year. So we had this conversation last week, and I think even 2 weeks ago, about how in week 13 or 14, it was probably Dak Prescott. You said that maybe it was still Dak Prescott. But no, it turns out that it is, in fact, Joe Burrow. What he's done with the Bengals, the way the team is completely rallied around him, and obviously the coach, Zach Taylor, and turned out to win the division for the first time in many years, win their first playoff game since text messages have been created, is enough for the NFL writers to give him the award.
Yeah, I think it's a good choice.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. I'll stand by the fact that I was wrong, but
it happens. I'm wrong a lot.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, the Cowboys disappointing. The whole league doesn't really sting me much. Being wrong in this aspect does not hurt me one bit.
Yeah, correct. The second game is the surprisingly competitive 10-7 49ers visiting the Los Angeles Rams at 12-5, who they beat, or the Niners went and beat twice this season. Now, look, it's a tough thing to beat the same team 3 times in 1 year. Just ask the Bucs and Saints last year. So this game is going to be close. There is no parts of this game that won't be close. However, Matt Stafford gets it done. Matt Stafford goes to his first Super Bowl, and I believe it's a relatively low-scoring affair in a 28-24 victory for the Los Angeles Rams.
Hot take. The Rams blow the doors off of San Francisco.
I like that even better.
I think they win by at least 2 touchdowns.
Stafford gets it done. I did see a meme earlier.
I could see 35-21.
I like it. I saw a meme earlier that said Matt Stafford didn't win a single playoff game in Detroit. When goes to LA, wins his first one, and then ends the GOAT's career. That is just – you sent it to me. That's correct. And that is just absolutely epic.
Hey, Taylor. All right, man. Look, listen, I said the Packers were going to win last week. Look what happened. Yeah,
I'm just happy the Packers didn't win, to be honest with you. I also called the Packers, but I'm so ready for new teams to be in the Super Bowl. So I want the Bengals to win. Nothing against the Chiefs and Big Red. Great for Big Red being the first coach in history to take two different teams to 4 straight conference championship games. And I mean, we'll always have that time in Philadelphia when you didn't win a Super Bowl, but I'm ready for a new team. So the Rams and Niners, cool. I'm cool with that. And the Bengals really are the team that I wish would find a way to come out on top. But yeah, so we've got our prediction of the Chiefs and the Rams in the Super Bowl. We can break down that conversation in the future.
Yeah. Who do you think is going to win in that matchup?
I think we'll get the second best playoff game of the season in that matchup. I don't. It's going to be really difficult to beat that Bills-Chiefs game. But if I'm sitting here right now giving you my prediction on who's going to win the Super Bowl between the Rams and the Chiefs, there's like some Cinderella story about Matt Stafford going on right now, and I'd hate to bet against him. So I'm going Matt Stafford in that matchup.
It wouldn't shock me if we saw something similar to that 54-51 shootout led by Jared Goff
3 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, as interesting as that would be, it'd be the second time in 2 years a home team's playing in the Super Bowl because that's SoFi.
And we know what happened last year with Tampa being home.
To be fair, Tampa actually fills their stadium with home fans.
That's true. Did you hear that the Rams for this week's Niners game weren't selling tickets for the first 48 hours to people outside of LA?
Yeah, I heard. I also heard that they were playing really, loud crowd sounds when they were practicing on the offensive side of the ball, which is, not common to have, such loud ruckus for the home team on offense.
Yeah. Eventually they're going to have to get like a fan base out there.
Maybe if they win a Super Bowl.
I mean, they're about to go to their second in 3 years. 4 years? They're second in 4 years. So, I mean, still a pretty decent team. Sean McVay has done wonders with that team, and he and Matt Stafford, again, are on the same page. And for some reason, like I said, I just feel like there's some Cinderella thing going on with Matt Stafford, so I don't want to bet against him. So, yeah, Rams, Chiefs in the Super Bowl, I'm going Rams.
Ask me next week.
I want to see how they play this week. If the Rams struggle with the Niners, I could change my answer. But if they do what you said and blow them out by 2 touchdowns, I'm going to really stand hard on this one.
I think blowing out the 49ers and trying to beat the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, who've been there, 3 years in a row, is kind of difficult. A little bit different.
I understand
but
that.
They got to get through step one, the 2-0 against them 49ers.
Yeah, that's correct. And part of the reason I'm taking the Rams specifically is because of how difficult it is to beat the same team 3 times in 1 year. Again, point in case, last year's Bucks got destroyed by the same. Say it again.
Has it happened ever?
Last year?
No.
Oh, no, 3 times? No. Yeah. So I don't have that stat. I tried to Google it really quick while you were talking and couldn't find it. Has a team as an NFL team be 3 times in 1 season? There are 14 other teams that have done it in history. You heard?
Yeah, 4 other teams?
14 other teams in history.
14?
14. That's a big number.
Yeah, that's actually a lot bigger than I thought it was.
Yeah, I thought it was like 3 or 4, if at all any.
And you just surfacely thinking about it, those aren't scrub teams that are losing 3 times either, because you would have to play in the playoffs to see somebody 3 times.
Correct. All right, closing thoughts here on this week. First of all, don't forget, everybody, that BSing Sports is hosting a block pool. I already have some of your names on the pool. I got an entire Excel file squared away. It's getting started. So everybody, if you are interested in doing that, Venmo either Ryan or I, and email us at bill@bsingsports.com or ryan@bsingsports.com. It's right here for both of us, just so you guys are aware. And let us know how many blocks you want. We're doing 5 per person at this time. It could change in the future, and we'll email you if it does. But for right this second, it is 5 per person. And yes, so let's get that all filled up and squared away. Ryan, closing thoughts?
No.
Oh, wait, I do have one other closing thought. One other one. Give me 1 second to fix this real quick. You're going to like this closing thought. Philadelphia Flyers win their first game in 11 matchups today, 4-3 over the Los Angeles Kings.
First and only win in January.
First and only win in January. They are a terrible, awful team to watch on the ice right now, but somehow they come out and get a victory here against the LA Kings. Sorry, I had to throw that one in there. But yeah, so those of you who are watching the stream, you can see the comments coming up. My wonderful wife has just put both of our emails up there. So again, if you're interested and you want to do the block pool, you want to get in the block pool, email one of us, tell us how many blocks you want, and then we'll take care of the Venmo stuff. But yeah, so again, thanks for tuning in to BSing Sports, where we do a little BSing and talk a whole lot of sports. I think I'm going to start doing that, signing off with that.
Yeah, I mean, it's great closing line. So enjoy your weekend, guys. Stay safe. Go Birds as always. But let's hope for another good weekend of football.
Let's hope for a great weekend of football. Have a good day. And our 5-minute